I balled my hands into fists. I planned to wait until the person was directly behind me and swing on them. I heard a footstep behind me, and I knew it was time. I popped up like a coiled spring and spun to deliver the haymaker. But before I even turned around, the person ran out of the room and slammed the door behind them as they did. I jumped up and followed after. I heard my room's door slam closed and assumed the stranger was running through my room to the patio. I got to my door and ripped it open to find my back door was swinging open. I dashed through the room and stepped into the backyard. It was pitch black outside. The solar lamps that lit the walkway had powered down, and the moon was covered by rolling clouds. I had left my phone in the theater room, so I didn't even have the weak bulb to help guide me. I ducked behind one of the cherry trees and let my eyes adjust as best they could to the darkness. Even when they did adjust, it was nearly impossible to see anything. I assumed we both were at the same disadvantage. I peered around the tree trunk, hoping to catch some movement in the dark. I had no real belief I'd be able to see anything, but I prayed I'd be able to track them by sound. If they moved near me, I could run towards the noise. The wind started blowing, shaking the trees. It made it harder to pinpoint any movement. If you were gonna run, the swelling of noise was the perfect time to do so. The other person must have agreed because they took off running for the back fence. I didn't hear it at first, but then the rhythmic pounding of footfalls cut through the shaking leaves. I dashed out from behind the tree and made for the fence myself. As I was sprinting after the intruder, a pale figure emerged from between two trees to my left and let out a blood-curdling scream. It sounded like the same scream from earlier. I was so caught off guard that I tripped over my feet and crashed to the ground. I thumped my head on the tile pretty hard and instantly felt the trickle of blood on my forehead. When I sat up, I was dizzy. I looked over where the screaming had come from and saw nothing. I tried to stand, but my wobbly legs made that difficult. As soon as I finally got upright, I heard someone at the fence. I saw the neighbor's motion light click on and knew they were climbing over. I felt a lump in my pocket and remembered I had the rock from earlier. In desperation, I pulled it out and threw it at the back fence. Maybe I'd get lucky and peg the person as they scrambled over the fence. I didn't, and the rock slammed into the fence with an echoing thud. I stood there, trying to catch my breath and feeling pain ripple through my body. What the hell had just happened? I was trying to process what was happening when I heard someone walking behind me. I turned around and saw another figure holding the flickering flame walking near the Kia house. I wanted to run over to them but was transfixed with the light like a moth. It never even came into my mind who was holding the flame. As the light moved to the side of the house, I heard the candle holder yell, "Moira's Acqui," before the light went out. I had retained enough Spanish to understand what the figure had just said. "You will die here." I stumbled over to where the figure had walked to, but, like every other time, there wasn't anyone there. It became clear, at this moment, that maybe I wasn't dealing with thieves. Perhaps this was something altogether unnatural. I wanted to say ghosts, but my rational brain couldn't cross that Rubicon. Then again, my rational brain also couldn't explain what the fuck just happened to me, either. I thought about calling Marcia but realized how late it was on the East Coast. She was probably dead tired from the travel. I'd do it first thing in the morning. I went back inside and checked on my head. I had a little gash over my eyebrow, but it had clotted. I cleaned it up and put on a butterfly stitch for good measure. Afterward, I went to every door and window and locked them shut. I did a little mental account of who might be outside. There was the woman in the white and yellow dress, the figure that screamed like a woman, and the candle guy. Of the three, the woman in the dress didn't harm me. At least not yet, anyway. Realizing I wasn't going to solve any of this and feeling confident that I was safe inside, I finally settled into bed. I was still terrified, but the adrenaline that had sustained me was gone. I felt my eyelids get heavy. I let the dark surround me and I passed out. It was the chirping birds that woke me up. They were so loud. It sounded like they were inside the room with me. I yawned, stretched, and rubbed the sleep from my eyes. My head was pounding from last night's fall. I opened my eyes, and my blood ran cold. The window and back door in my room were wide open. I jumped out of bed and backed out of my room into the hallway. That's when I noticed that every window and door in the entire house was open. What the hell? I muttered before stepping on something hard and yelping in pain. I grabbed my foot and rubbed the arch. That's when I saw the thing I had stepped on. It was the rock I had thrown at the fence last night. There was no way that should be here. Nobody would have been able to find that rock. I blindly threw it into the sprawling backyard on the darkest night in months. There should be absolutely no way I could be looking at this rock. Yet, here it was, once again causing injury to my body. Hello. Police department. Anyone here? It was coming from the front door. I pocketed the rock, stood up, and tried to collect myself. After a few deep breaths, I headed out of the hallway towards the front door. Sure enough, 2 uniformed police officers were standing there. About 10 feet behind them, I saw the neighbor and his wife. He waved. She glared. "Can I help you?" I asked. "We were wondering if you could help us, partner," the taller cop said with a fake smile. "How's that?" "Neighbors came out for a walk this morning and saw all the doors and windows opened here. Thought that was strange. Any reason why you did that?" "I didn't," I said. "Is there someone else in the house with you?" He tried to step in, but I shifted my weight in the door frame. He noticed but didn't call it out. His partner, a guy with the body of a former high school fullback, clucked. "Any reason you're blocking the door? Any reason you need to come inside?" I asked. "We're just making sure you're okay," the taller cop said. "I'm fine, thanks." "Neighbor said you got into a scuffle last night," the high school fullback spat. "Who with?" "I don't know. Someone was on the property, and I scared them away," I said, looking past the cops at the neighbor. "I'm sure he told you that already. Why didn't you call the police?" "Person was gone and didn't think it mattered. Plus, this ain't your house," the fullback said. "Yes. I'm house sitting. Would you like to see the Tasker app for confirmation?" Before they answered, I pulled out my phone and showed them the details. The short cop ignored it. The tall one didn't. "That seems in order," the taller cop said with another smile. I watched his eyes, and he was looking behind me. "Sure, there isn't anyone else in here. No one I invited. Want us to do a once-over?" "I'll be okay." "You sure? Not worried about all these windows and doors being open? Anyone could have just walked in and hurt you or stolen something." "I'm fine. I just woke up, and I'm going to check out the place. If anything seems out of place, I'll be sure to give you guys a call. It'd be no issue for us if we gave the house a once-over. We're here to help." I knew they were trying to get inside the house. My guess was the neighbor's wife had poisoned the well, and the cops were suspicious of me. I didn't feel like getting railroaded by the police today. Unless they could solve a potential ghost issue, their presence here was more a hindrance than a help. "No," I said. "I'm good. I wouldn't mind if we gave it a glance," the short cop said. "To be safe." "Do you have a search warrant?" That changed the tone of the conversation. "We're not accusing you of anything," the taller cop said, "just making sure you're okay. I've told you I'm fine. Is there anything else I can help you with?" The cops shared a look. There was a conversation in a glance. How far are we going to push this to appease some rich neighbor? Finally, the tall cop gave me another store-bought smile and said, "Nope. I think we're done here." I closed the door and let the police go have a chat with the neighbors. I started closing the windows but lingered a bit to see the interaction. They spoke in stage whispers, and I heard most of the wife's words. She wasn't pleased. She mentioned someone setting off their motion sensors last night and assumed it was me. When she saw the windows and doors, calling the cops was a no-brainer. I moved through rooms in the house, shutting the windows and doors. As I did, I wondered how many different people and/or ghosts were watching me do so. I'd get another visit from Starsky and Hutch if anything unusual happened near the neighbor's property. I already assumed that I would be getting another visit from one of the 3 ghouls in the backyard. I started thinking that maybe this job wasn't worth the hassle. Then I remembered how much I was being paid and came to my senses. After I closed the house back up, I decided to give Marcia a call. It rang 5 times, she didn't seem to have a voicemail, and I was about to hang up when she answered. "Hello. Hey, it's John from Tasker. How are things at the chateau? Okay. Hey, real quick, have you ever had any, strange interactions here? With hobos? No. With, like, spirits. I don't really drink. Well, champagne sometimes, but ghosts. Like, ghosts here. Marcia laughed, and I could feel the blood rush to my face. I can't say that I have, dear. I've had issues with rats. Are you sure it's not rats? Pretty sure, I said. What's going on? Do I need to return? No. I've just heard some weird noises in the backyard and in the house. And, some windows seem to have opened by themselves. Is that common here? Well, I have had some issues with the latches. The house is nearly as old as the good Lord himself, John, she laughed. I joined in with a laugh so fake yet so convincing it should have come with an Emmy. It must be faulty latches. I'll double check them, I said. You haven't gone into the Kia house, have you? No, I said, taken aback. Good. It's so unstable. It looks pretty solid, I said, adding, it stood for over 100 years. Looks can be deceiving, she sighed. I have to get going. You let me know if any real problems emerge, huh? Before I could say bye, she hung up. I stood there, more confused about everything. I knew I had eyes on me, the living and the dead. Anything I did would be met with some sort of response. But I needed to do something. The figure last night mentioned I would die here, not exactly a ringing endorsement to stay. That said, I had seen the candle figure after I had thumped my head real good. Maybe I had seen something that wasn't there. Maybe my brain was skipping like a CD player in a jogger's pocket, making some new song from the interruptions. I needed independent confirmation something odd was going on. I wanted to go to the neighbor to see if there was any footage, but I knew I couldn't. If I showed up now, they'd think I was there to exact revenge for them calling the cops. I needed someone who knew something about paranormal stuff. I flipped through my contacts and sighed when I came to the person who could help me. Maggie. Maggie and I had met through a dating app and instantly clicked over text. She was a bit of an eccentric, but we had good chats. She kept me on my toes, and I liked it. Her personality was a bit outside my comfort zone, but I was willing to give it a go if she was. We met up for dinner, which was as awkward as a fart in church. Any magic we had online disappeared like a mirage in person. While we might not have been a romantic fit, Maggie was still an interesting person. The magic returned when the pressure of being a couple went out the window. We chatted often, and our conversations took wild turns. She was way into paranormal stuff and told me all about the investigations she went on. She posted them to her TikTok and YouTube accounts and had a decent following. I watched a few, and let's just say I wasn't a convert. We drifted when she started dreaming that great harm was going to come to me, and that I should be aware that dark figures were looking for me. That was enough of a jolt for me to maybe wind down the chats with her. At the time, they seemed outlandish and vaguely like she was threatening me. Eventually, we stopped talking. But now those weird-ass dreams started making sense to me, too. I swallowed my pride and sent her a text. Hey, can I ask you a question about the paranormal? My phone rang 2 seconds later. It's happening, isn't it? I don't know, I said. Tell me everything, Maggie said. I did. Over the next 15 minutes, she quizzed me on any number of things. I answered her questions as best as I could. Maggie told me she had a friend who would not only be able to confirm that I wasn't crazy but also be able to help. I gave her the address and hung up. An hour later, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to reveal the neighbor. He, again, apologized for the cops. I said it was fine and was about to shut the door on him when he told me he had something I should see. He pulled out his phone and pressed play on a video from his security camera. I shielded my eyes from the sun and squinted to see the black and white video playing. It was from a camera pointed at the fence line. The time stamp in the corner was 2:45 in the morning. At first, nothing happened. I started to move, but he quickly said, "Just keep watching." I'm glad I did. On screen, I saw the flickering of a candle appear from nowhere. Again, a shadowy figure held it, but I couldn't distinguish any other features. They walked towards the fence and then disappeared. The video stopped. What happened? I asked. I don't know, but look at this from about 15 minutes later. He hit play, and I heard a loud thump and recognized the noise as the rock I had thrown at the fence last night. Right after, a figure sprinted through the fence. They blurred across the screen until they were gone. I rewound the footage to get a good look at the figure, but it was too blurry to make anything out. What was that? I asked. I don't think it was a thief, he said. It traveled through the fence. What traveled through the fence? I looked up and saw Maggie standing at the door. She gave me a warm smile, and I felt a sense of ease come over me. She could help me. I felt safe with her around, like she was protected against these things. I showed her the video, and she shook her head. Oh yeah, we're dealing with ghosties. I thought you were bringing someone over to check. He's parking the car. Oh, wait, there he is. I peered over her shoulder and saw a lanky man with a long black beard and matching fedora walking over. He wore a duster despite it being 1,000,000 degrees outside. His fingers were covered in rings. He had on several necklaces and a scarf. He looked like he had come in third place in a Johnny Depp lookalike contest. He lumbered over and nodded at me. Greetings, I am Artie Mystical de la Rouge at your service. I struggled to not roll my eyes. I looked at Maggie, and she shrugged. We call him Art. Hi, Art, I said, trying to suppress a giggle. I'm John. Who is this? Maggie asked, nodding at the neighbor. Dave Mitchell, Esquire, he said, shaking her hand. I'm the neighbor. Charmed, Art said, shaking Dave's hand. Should we head inside? Yeah, absolutely, I said, opening the door to invite them in. We got about 3 steps into the foyer before Art came to a halt. Oh, I do not like this. There's something, I need to sit down. Now. I looked over at Maggie, who was worried. I grabbed Art by the arm and led him to a couch. His hand was clammy, and there were beads of sweat on his brow. You okay? There is a malevolence here, John. So I've gathered. Do you need anything? Water. Tylenol. Proton pack. Water would be amazing. Many thanks, he said with a flourishing hand wave. Many welcomes, I said, walking over to Maggie. Is he okay? I whispered. He's weird, but he's the best. He's in tune with the other side on a level I've never seen before, she said. Is he in tune with our world? She giggled and I remembered how charming I found her laugh. Thanks for reaching out, she said. I know you thought I was crazy or something. No, I interrupted. She kept on trucking, but I was worried something might happen. I'm glad you called. I'm glad you answered. One thing, though, she said, biting her bottom lip. I need to document this on TikTok. I'm not supposed to have anyone over here, I said. What if Marcia finds out? Is this 60-year-old lady an avid TikTok user? I sighed. Fine. Do your thing. She smiled. I knew I liked you for a reason. Maggie went off to shoot some footage. I grabbed a bottle of water for Art and handed it to him. He nodded and drank down half the bottle in one gulp. He smacked his lips after and smiled. I feel more whole now, thank you. No problem, I said. Did Maggie tell you anything about this place? Oh yes. The spirit filled in the gaps of the story as soon as I entered. I really wanted to roll my eyes but fought the urge. What did they say? Demons have replaced the true spirits that used to haunt this land. What? Art leaned forward. Sometimes, demons tap into the energy of a location that experienced a traumatic spiritual event. And do what? They take it over. Gonna be honest, Art, my knowledge of demons is limited to the Exorcist. Why would demons do that? Have you ever heard of zombie snails? Ugh, no. It's a parasitic worm that infects snails and makes them seem alive even when they've died. Birds eat the zombie snails, and the worm lays eggs in the bird's guts. When the bird dispels its excrement, the cycle continues anew. So, you're saying the ghosts here are actually parasitic demons? Yes, he said, and if we're not careful, they can spread. They might have already. He tipped back the bottle and demolished the other half. It was at that instant that I regretted reaching out to Maggie. She swore Art could help, but he seemed as nutty as a Mounds bar. I had to gracefully move away from Art before he started rambling about another insane theory. I glanced back and saw Dave snapping photos of the artwork on the walls. I walked over to him. I'm not sure you should be taking photos of her artwork. I know, but these are treasures, John. Marcia has some amazing taste. Some of these pieces are priceless, Dave said, marveling at the walls. She's never let us in here before, and I can see why. Half of this stuff belongs in a museum. Is it old? I mean, that's an Alfred Jacob Miller painting, so you tell me. Look at the beauty, the scale. My goodness. I don't know who that is. That? Oh my, it is, Dave said, gushing. This one here is a James Walker painting. It's from his Mexican-American War series. He was famous for battle scenes. Oh, the details. I love Western art. Why hasn't Marcia ever told us about these? Did you say the Mexican-American War? Yes, he covered the war for. Sweet Lord above. An apparition. Art yelled from the couch. I snapped around, expecting to see the candle figure or the screaming woman, but instead, I saw a shadow on the wall. It was Maggie. She waved to Art to calm him down. I was suddenly feeling less confident in my decisions. I looked at the collection of oddballs I had invited into a house that wasn't mine and sighed. If Marcia was watching, I knew I'd be fucked. While Marcia didn't have any overt security cameras, that didn't rule out hidden ones. Was she watching me now? I felt like a kid attempting their first shoplift, frayed nerves, feeling eyes on me, and a guilty pang in the pit of my stomach. Hey, I said, turning to the group, maybe we should. There was a rumble under our feet. Earthquake. It was a roller, which felt like you were standing on a sound wave as it passed under your feet. I braced myself against the wall as the quake roiled. After 30 seconds, the chandeliers were the only things still swaying. You guys okay? I asked. Everyone said yes. I shook my head to try to clear away the cobwebs. I wasn't sure what I should be doing or what was happening. I felt the urge to tell everyone to leave and just go sit alone in the bedroom until Marcia returned. Those thoughts came on as fast as the quake. 1 second I wondered about the distant noise I was hearing, the next, I was wobbling like a newborn calf. Maybe we should. I never finished my thought. The power in the house flickered and then went out. I was annoyed, but that sometimes happens after a quake. At that moment, all of the shades drew closed by themselves. I don't care how big the earthquake is, that never happens. The house was as dark as it had been the other night. What is that? Dave said. I glanced up and saw a light at the end of the hallway near my bedroom door. It was from a candle that was suspended in the air. Dave dropped the phone from his hand, and the candlelight winked out. Something is in the room, Art said, his voice as panicked as ever. Let's not jump to conclusions, I said. Moira's Acqui, a disembodied voice hissed all around us. I don't speak Spanish, Dave said. What did they say? What did they say? The candle suddenly appeared in front of us. It hovered for a second before it plunged to the floor. When it hit, there was a spark, and it disappeared. But the light wasn't gone. Instead of a candle, the words, "You will die here," glowed on the carpet. It flickered like candlelight and then winked out. You could smell the smoke from the wick.